We're live. Okay. Now what I'm gonna test is the actual YouTube channel. Okay.
Sure.
This is what happens when you rock somebody. You know what I mean? My channel is Preach with Prague. It's a wellness channel, but my channel is Preach with Prague. It's a wellness channel.
There you go. Yeah, right.
Where's your microphone?
Right here.
Do you have it up? All right, cool.
Check. Yep.
Hi, good evening, and welcome after a very long technical support type of issue. We're here this evening at Crescendo Studios, the first summer open mic. And today I'm here with Squares. I heard him perform, and it's my first interview with him. Welcome, Squares. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing okay now. I'm doing okay
Up and
now.
running, yep.
Yeah, you definitely witnessed me struggle with the technical difficulties. I was telling him before we went live that I was trying to put on a good presentation, and at some point I just let it all go and just woosah my butt. I said, you know what? This is what it looks like behind the scenes. I'm trying to put it all together.
It happens. I know all about it as a musician and working with technical things and electronics and all that other type of stuff. Believe me,
it can make magic happen.
Yeah.
But it can also
make nightmares happen.
Precisely.
Yep.
Yeah. How did your performance go today?
It went great. I felt really good about it. So I debuted a couple new songs off of the album. Not necessarily debuted, but I played them again for like maybe the second or third time. And it felt really good. Everything was pretty smooth.
This is Arrival, right? The album Arrival?
That's correct. Yep. So the new album is called Arrival. It's my third album with Squares. The first album that I released a few years ago was called SOS. Man, it's been so long now. So and that was just another EP, 6-song EP. And then after that, I had never really done a full-length album just by myself, right? So I wanted to give that a shot. So that was the second album that I came out with called Mountains. And, and now, here we are, 4 years into the Squares project, and now I've just released Arrival. So it's 8 songs. So technically it's an EP. It's right on the borderline of between like EP and full length.
What's EP?
EP is just it's like a shorter version of an album. So it's usually like I think 8 songs is pretty much the maximum that it could be if it's technically considered an EP.
Is it like a mixed track? Or did I just randomly throw a word in there?
Yeah, so I don't really know the difference between like a regular album or an EP and a mixtape.
Mixtape, thank you.
So like I know that mixtapes are typically usually more geared towards like hip hop and R&B, even to some degree. So I'm not sure really where it falls in the line.
Yours is indie rock.
Yeah, it's indie rock. So I can, I'm more familiar with like an EP, so I just called it an EP.
It's like Incubus. Are those guys indie rock?
So they're more like alternative, I would consider. That's one of my favorite bands, by the way. So
Incubus.
Good pull on that one. I love Incubus.
Incubus, yeah. Who's like indie rock? Somebody that's
indie rock
so popular, like I might know.
Yeah, like a band like 21 Pilots, if you've ever heard of them, and then like
So Stressed Out.
Yeah. So bands like that, MGMT, Yep. Exactly.
Do you do a lot of beats as well in your tracks?
I do, yeah. And I do like the majority of the production and stuff on the album as well too. So
what was the first album? So it was Mountains, Arrival, and
first it was SOS, and then Mountains, and now Arrival.
That kind of sounds like a journey in itself. Right?
It's
like but then it's like, all right, I'm climbing these mountains, or I have mountains, and then.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then I arrive.
Yeah. Well,
talk about that, yeah.
So one of the biggest things that I've kind of focused on and have kind of where these albums have been kind of an outlet for me is, so I've had my own struggles with mental health, anxiety, and depression and things like that. And even before I really kind of, I think, understood, knew it, I was kind of letting that out, right? So mountains was the one where I really kind of started to get like more specific about that.
Yeah,
In
the
fact,
focus point.
yeah, there's a tune on there on mountains called Rescue that literally speaks specifically to the way that I feel and the way that I perceive anxiety and depression, like my experience of it.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of like the, I guess,
The theme.
and yeah, a little. It's a main theme that I have throughout like my records and my songs and stuff like that, for sure.
That's who you reach out to. So like Preach with Prop, we also try to reach out to. It's a wellness channel, but not just like exercising and looking. It's about the inner.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're working on the inner as
Oh,
well.
100%. Yeah, definitely. So for the longest time, like pretty much most of my adult life, I've struggled with this, and with anxiety and depression specifically. Struggles with mental health and everything. And I was very reluctant to go talk to anyone, like go seek therapy or anything like that, because as a man, just like in the culture in general, you kind of try to, you're told to suck it up, just kind of, keep it moving, just do the best you can or whatever, and just swallow that stuff, And it was kind of like, it got to a point where it was like kind of eating away at me so much that I was just like, you know what, like I'm just gonna talk to somebody, like I'm just gonna do it. And it's been, a tremendous blessing for me. Over the last almost year or so, I've been speaking with a therapist and everything,
Okay.
and it's been a huge help for me. It's been life changing, honestly. So what's been fun and like interesting is the way to see how that's like kind of reflected in my music. Of course, there's still there's the difficulty of life. Life is still challenging, which
it's
is
your
why
attitude towards it.
exactly right. So my
Sounds like
attitude and just like the feeling as well too. I do, like, I've always been, I like to think a positive person, but there has just been more of a like I feel more worked out, for lack of a better word, so. And I feel like the music has reflected that. Like, honestly, like, it seems like it's a little more kind of put together. It's a little more, just slightly more positive, a little more just like
optimistic.
Yeah, it's for sure.
Hopeful.
That's the best word, optimistic. So it's more of that. So I'm really like kind of glad to see how that's kind of developed, and that's again just kind of been a focal point. It's just kind of been the way that it kind of worked out, So yeah.
Could we talk about a bit about like the dark days when you were there in your dark days?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Because maybe there are the viewers who possibly are like, well, what kind of depression or anxiety, but not specifically. But so you didn't really look for pharmaceutical interventions.
I mean, I did, so I've, and that was kind of part of like the whole process of seeking help and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Not that there was, I sought that out myself, like just to see what would possibly help, So the main thing for me was anxiety, So I've suffered like, some pretty severe panic attacks and stuff like that, in the past.
Just to deal with your regular day, or is it because you're an artist as well? So like before you go perform, are you having panic attacks, or just like in your normal, you're about to go to the grocery store type of deal?
More of that types, like honestly, like more of those type of things, like simplistic things, or bigger things like flight anxiety, for instance, had been a really big one for me. That actually was like one of the main reasons that I went, was because I was like, I had a really, really terrible experience on a flight, years back, almost a decade back now. And I had basically a panic attack on a flight, and I had to, they had to give me oxygen and all this type of stuff. Yeah, like, so they almost had to do an emergency landing, all that type of stuff. And beyond just like the severe fear of it, and like the physical toll that it took on me, it was extremely embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like, just super, super embarrassing to have that kind of episode,
Do you
in a
fly
public
now?
place like that, huh? Yeah, I've flown. Yeah, like, so I did. I finally flew, and it went okay. Like, I got, I've flown twice. Well, technically 4 times, I guess, since then.
Yeah.
It was okay. Like, it was better anyways. There was still, of course, that anxiety, but it was better.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think evolved since then? How do you now, if you were see from a third party perspective, how do you think evolved that made you say, you know what, it's just a freaking flight, you're gonna be cool?
Oh, therapy, for sure.
Is it right?
100%. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
They talked you into how like it was just a.
Yeah, I'm also like, what's always kind of one of the biggest things that's worked for me, with almost everything that I do is exposure therapy as well too. So like, I would like, like even for a period of time, it got so bad to where I wasn't even able to like drive on a highway, right? So I just drove on the highway more, like which I always kind of have, but like those, sometimes these things just hit you out of nowhere. But I did it more, and like, and it just kind of got better eventually. I was just like, okay, let me just force myself to do this. So just kind of forcing myself to do it, just taking the step and all that. So that, yeah, so that's what kind of got me over the hump a lot, and then of course just talking to somebody, medication, all that type of stuff. Like, so all of the above. So
that's what the music was initially. SOS was around the time that you were in this.
It was more mountains. So mountains was when I like was kind of going through it and kind of like doing a lot of the work to get myself better. SOS.
Like
so SOS was probably more like in the deep, like in the dark of it, I guess you could say, for sure. Yeah.
How did you because for me, when I'm in my dark days, right, I don't want to do shit.
Yes.
Okay, right, it's apathy at its max.
Yeah.
And now that I'm older, I kind of have to do some shit sometimes. You
Right.
know, like, hello, like you have to put a roof over your head. You gotta show up for your family. But when I was younger, it was even more. So how did you go about releasing like an album while you were going through the?
Because music has always been like kind of the release for me, and that's kind of, it was. So that song "Rescue on Mountains" was actually speaks to, again, like the darkness of it, but it also is, it's almost kind of like a little bit like a love letter to music as well too, because music has always been that point for me where when I am in those dark times, or like, like back when I was younger, like music became such a passion for me because I really kind of felt like I didn't really have a place, like I didn't know what I was gonna do, like I didn't necessarily like super, specifically fit in with a specific group or anything like that, like I was into all kinds of different stuff. I was like kind of like a skater and a little bit of a nerd, like I was into like, comics and cards and stuff like that. But then I was also into like fashion, but I didn't really have like money to like get cool fashion and stuff like that, so I was in this like really weird place where I didn't know, like, of course I had friends and stuff like that, not to say that I didn't, but like it definitely, I'm sure we all go through those times where we're still secluded.
In hindsight, wasn't that like do you feel like that was like when you're younger, yeah, you feel like, why am I not just like that person, this person? But in hindsight, like when you're older, you're like, dude, that was what I was about.
Yeah,
like
totally, yeah.
I'm rocking fashion, I'm rocking this random music, I'm rocking, like it's strange how when you're younger you kind of just want to be molded into one. But when you're older, you kind of like, no, it's all of it that I'm gonna rock.
You hit the nail on the head, because like honestly, like as I was thinking about it, and I was talking to my buddy TK, shout out to Neoclassic Records, but as I was talking to him, we were talking a lot about like just like shaping the who Squares is, like and the project and everything. And I was like, well, like I have this, I have that, like I have this. I'm all these things, like it's just I'm all of it. I'm a gamer, like I'm a music nerd. I'm a movie buff. I'm all these things, So it's like it just kind of is what it is, like if it doesn't necessarily fit in a specific mold, then so be it, like it's just like
authenticity.
Yeah, like for me, like there's just I have a lot of stuff that I'm just kind of like that I like to get into and that I am into. And it is what it is.
Okay.
So
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So we're like, I was telling you, it's a Preacher Practice Wellness channel, and we talk about self-care and discipline.
Surely.
So you went through 3 albums and you saw yourself metaphors, your inner world. Throughout these 3 albums. So what techniques, or like what's something that you try to do regularly, let's just say in terms of discipline, right? So that you find yourself coming back to the studio, find yourself, making yourself the artist that you are. Is there anything like that?
So
especially that you've like evolved from SOS days to Bravery.
Yeah.
There's something about a very mic drop type of that. I like it.
Sure.
I like it.
so a lot.
You know what I mean? I'm like I found myself.
For
I'm
sure.
working on it.
And that was why I named the album that as well too, because like specifically musically, but also just as a person, I felt like it was an arrival point for me. Like I was like, oh man, like okay, like I kind of know who I am, like, and even like
Yeah,
you discover when you discover. It happens when it
Yes,
happens.
yes.
But like,
And it's a unique feeling,
mhm.
and you have confidence in it, and you can't prove it. You can't be like, well, but you live it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You feel it almost like kind of for yourself. No one can tell you that like you finally feel confident in your own skin and all that good type of stuff.
Yes,
You just
yes.
know it when you do.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah. What was the what kind of
so what kind of thing kind
to
of gets me
maintain
back to
the channel?
I mean, dude,
What I
I
mean?
just love it. So it's always been a love for me. Like honestly, so a prime example of I guess how I always come back to it. So I took a little bit of a hiatus back in like 2013, 2014, something like that. Like I wasn't really doing much. Like I wasn't really doing a whole lot of music. I was just kind of shut it all off for a little bit. And
Did you shut off technology as well? Like, did you do a digital detox? Or you were with technology, but just shut off your routine, like nine
yeah,
to five, love,
yeah,
love,
just
love.
like just not really like
The
like
rat race.
yeah, exactly.
I
Not
got
really
you.
like pushing it with music quite as much. I wasn't recording a lot. I wasn't doing a whole lot of song and stuff. And up until that point, I've been in bands and recording and playing and touring and all that stuff
Wow.
pretty much my whole like adult life. So up until that point.
Wow.
So I just kind of stopped for a bit, and I almost because I just kind of felt like I was like I don't really know what to say right now. Like I don't really know. Like
You know who else just said that recently?
who's that?
The Weeknd.
Oh really?
He said, I just don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these people pay so much money.
Yeah.
And expect blah 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 out of me, but
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like you're a person too. You
Yeah.
gotta woosah too. Yeah.
Hey, look, sometimes with creativity, like it's not like other things. It's like either it comes or it doesn't. It's not like like analytics. I mean, you can be analytical about it, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean? It's not like mathematics, which is just there. Period. You know what I mean? Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Like if you're like like a CPA for instance, right? You can always do that work pretty much all the time, right?
Yeah.
Creativity is something that comes to you. So it's something that like
you gotta be channeled in.
exactly. It's something that develops. It's an art. So
that's
like
good that you had that instinct to say I need a break.
needed a break. So I just needed to stop for
Could
a little
you feel
bit.
that your creativity was kind of going down, or could you feel
Totally. Oh, absolutely.
your mundane?
I wasn't crazy about a lot of the stuff that I was putting together, like in writing and everything like that, and I just wasn't like really sure, even really at that point, what genre to go in either. Because I was just like, for the longest time I've been doing rock, but then I was doing kind of more like an almost strictly pop R&B type thing, and then so again, just kind of like just finding myself out, right?
Yeah.
And after about maybe a year or two or so, like I got to the point I was just like, okay, I got this idea, like I got this idea too. I got this idea as well too. Hey, stuff is starting to like pop and click a little bit now, and I want to put it down. Let me just go ahead and put it down and just see what happens. And then I started from that point. I really kind of haven't looked back. Like I started writing and recording albums again, and the rest was kind of history. So here I am.
The hiatus.
Mhm.
How did your average day look like? Like how did you take care of yourself?
Sure. So I mean, I was working. I was working full time at that point. Kind of full time. And then also a family man. So at that point I had a new baby. So
Hey,
wife
that
and a new baby.
yeah.
And so it was focused on the family a lot, which is
That's another
always
form of
always the thing. So that was a great source of inspiration for
There
me
you
as well
go,
too,
yeah,
just being
yeah.
with them and hanging out. And
Being a first time dad.
yeah, exactly. So that's a whirlwind, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But then like just everything, like we'd sit around and like have like Netflix and chill and stuff like that, and there's music everywhere, what I mean, there's music in everything. So we're sitting and watching these shows and stuff like that, and I'm hearing like tunes and stuff like that, and I'm kind of picking little pieces from, so I'm just like, man, that sounds really cool. I'd love to do something like that. Oh, that sounds really cool. I want to take that part and like make something out of that.
You wanted to miss it again.
Exactly, and I did, and it surfaced, and I was like, okay, I can't hold these ideas in anymore. Let me just put some stuff down and see where it goes, So and it's built, and then later on, I kind of went through another and I think we all kind of did this, but like during COVID, yeah, like I think we all kind of hit a point to where it was like, whoa, like I mean, none of us have ever seen anything like that ever in our lives, So to go through that, and really, I mean, it was interesting because like all I had was just music at that point, and of course my family and stuff, but like all I really had to do was because I was, everyone had to stay at home. I couldn't work.
Yeah.
I couldn't do my
Do
usual
other stuff.
job.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was at home, and I was just like, I was writing a lot, but that also got to a point where I was just like, okay, I really don't think I have anything else to say in this specific project, So that's where Squares came from. Like I was like, Squares came out of COVID, honestly. Like,
Oh, okay. What were you before that, or who were you before?
so I was just going by my name. So I was just going by Chris Barrett, and it was, again, it was more like that kind of like pop R&B, but I throw in some like, some other like influences and stuff in there. So I switched it to Squares because it was more of an indie rock, like almost lending to like a band type feel.
Mm-hmm.
But it was more like, again, like I kind of go more like that 21 Pilots type thing, where it's only like one or two guys behind a band name is kind of the idea. So because I wanted to do rock again, it's just like I hadn't done like I've been doing rock all the way up through like 2010. I was like, and that's since like the beginning of my career, since I was like 13 years old.
Yeah.
So I got into I wanted to do rock again, and I started doing some songs, and I was just really feeling it.
Yeah.
And the birth of that became SOS, like that first EP. And I was like, man, I'm feeling this. Like I was like, I love this sound. I think this is a really good sound for me, and I think let's explore it. Let's explore it more, and here we are.
So you sing, and do you play instruments as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my primary instrument is actually drums. So that's actually like my main thing that I do. All the way up through, until I started doing more solo stuff in 2010.
Can you rock both? Can you like do the drums and sing? No, right?
Kind of. I don't think. I think the days of anyone ever trying to be like a drummer, lead singer, are kind of like not really present anymore. But then you also have people like Anderson .Paak who are just insanely talented and can do both. So it's not. I don't think it's completely like out of the picture. But I personally will, like I play guitar, and I also play a little bit of bass as well too. Not really, but I prefer to just kind of be up there with the guitar and sing if I'm going to be doing that type of thing.
Okay.
But can I play drums and sing? Yeah, I mean I can.
So like your voice is your instrument.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I mean, drums is my primary instrument, but my voice, it's. I like to stick to just doing the voice because you can do more with it. I think
When did you realize like your voice is special and you should? Yeah. When when did you realize your voice is special and it's an instrument and I'm gonna sing with it.
Surely.
Younger, when you were young, or.
I mean, yeah, like so I got into like singing and stuff mostly. So I've been singing even in like middle school, just as like for fun almost,
Okay.
But I got like truly into singing mostly just because I wanted to write songs. Like when I first started playing even drums, I quickly like picked up guitar because I wanted to have something to where I could like write songs.
Okay.
So I always wanted to be a songwriter. I always loved the songwriting process, like from the start. I always just thought that was super
poetry
cool.
type.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, it kind of started with like, I was like, I've always been like kind of a rocker. So I was always like, I want to play riffs. You know what I mean? So I got into like guitar because I wanted to play riffs. I was like, I want to make the riffs that go with the song, right? But I want to write like the composition. So that's where I got into it, and then I just kind of started singing just to kind of come up with melodies and stuff like that, to go along with the music.
It was like the extra piece to this project that this art that you were making. You were like, well,
totally, yeah. I mean, and even when I was in high school, like we would, I would sing on some songs and stuff like that because we were just like we kind of all like split duty, just kind of for fun, and I was just like still discovering, right? But I guess the point where I was like, okay, like I think this, like I like my voice and I think it kind of sounds good. Was I was playing in a band called Pictures and Pieces.
Okay.
The band I actually kind of started that band. Like so once I was done playing with the band before that, a band called Starside Fire, I started just putting together like some demos just for fun, like just of my own stuff, just to kind of like to do stuff that I felt was like a little more fitting for my style. So I was like, well, I play a little bit of drums, I play a little bit of guitar, I sing a little bit. Why don't I just do everything? Why don't I just do everything on the record and just see how it goes, right? And it sounded really cool. Like I was really happy with the outcome and stuff. And I was like, I showed it to some friends and they thought it was cool and everything like that. And they were like, man, it sounds good, man. I was like, cool, like I was like, the idea is to put together a band, so like, and I still wanted to play drums at the time, so I was playing drums. But I wanted to get like, the whole band together, singer and all that. So we eventually became Pictures and Pieces, and that was the band that I was playing with for, I'd say maybe about 3 or 4 years, maybe a little bit longer than that. But that's probably when I realized I was like, okay, well, I actually like the sound of my voice, and I think it sounds cool. Like I want to sing more, so I will. so yeah.
Yeah.
So
So you listen to your voice, you're like, all right, I like the way.
It's like, it sounds cool. I was like, it sounds like, if I weren't, like if I was outside, I would listen to this. I think it sounds like good enough for me to listen to. So like, it's like I try to be careful with saying stuff like that because I don't want to come off as like,
no,
like
but think about it. Like some people are more like, I just don't, they would compare themselves to somebody else, but you kind of at this, it sounds like you've kind of said, no, you found your voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, no, this is,
Totally. Yeah. And honestly, like, I've never wanted to be that person like that, like, that's always just like, oh, it sounds terrible. Like, oh, I don't want to listen to it. Oh, I don't want,
you gotta
I don't like the sound
you
of it.
gotta give.
Because, like, honestly, that can be kind of like, you can get into a dark spot with that as well, too.
You can be like, your own negative Nancy.
Totally. All the time. Like, I like the sound of my music. You know what I mean? Like, I
that's
think,
big.
It's now a lot of the times, like most of the times, I'm usually like listening clinically. Like, so I'm listening like, critically, to make sure that everything sounds good and everything like that. But I also listen for enjoyment. Like I'll listen back and I'm like, all right, we got it. Sounds good. So
I love that. Yeah.
I'm not that type of person. And honestly, like, I just want to be the type of like create the type of music that I would, put on a playlist, so like I have a playlist on, my YouTube that literally has over like 2,000 songs on it, so
snap.
if
all your productions,
no, this is all just music that I like.
Okay,
gotcha. But I would, even for like to just be like one song on someone's playlist like that is like super cool for me. So that's like kind of ultimately the goal. Like if someone likes me enough to save me to their playlist, sweet. I think that's a great accomplishment. Because that's huge. I mean, that's someone saying like, like I really like. I love your stuff so much that I want to hear it again and again and again.
It's like, it means something to me.
Yeah. Like
it's not just something I like.
That's tough to come across. Like even throughout all ends of time, but especially now. So
with the competition, like with the amount of choices that there is for you to be on somebody's playlist.
Yeah, because there's so much good music coming out. Like the recording quality and stuff, like with people being able to record at home and stuff like that, which I do as well too. It's so much easier for like so many more people to make great music. So you're competing with like everybody now. So someone says, "Hey, I like your music so much, I want to listen to it frequently." Bro, I like.
Okay.
I'm good.
You work, and then you also have your artist life.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how do you find yourself balancing? Not balancing the two, but I'm guessing like one is like your passion, and one is like, one is something that you have to do for yourself.
Right.
In order to be in this town. How do you fight laziness, or how do you fight comfort, or you know what I mean? How do you fight that just to keep fueling your artist life, besides like being part of these open mics and just continuing to like make the butter, like
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of complement each other, honestly. Like, so like, the thing about music for me is it's always been kind of like a little bit of a lifeblood, like it's been like it is a source that kind of like helps to keep me going. It's almost like a personal therapy for me. It's it's an outlet that I need. Everybody has something for the most part, that they like to do that kind of keeps them going. And that's what it is for me. It's like, now granted, like I take it a little more seriously, I think, than others do.
Yeah.
Because like it's
you don't sometimes sing or karaoke sing.
Yeah.
You're producing.
I mean, I've been playing for over 30 years, so like it's very much like in my blood, and I come from, my family, I come from a family that's like all musicians, like all musicians. My cousin is a virtuoso, trombone and keyboard
Wow.
player, and many other instruments as well too.
Yeah. Yeah.
My brother was a drummer. My mom was a singer. My sister played piano and
Mhm.
sang. My dad was a huge music buff. My other cousin plays drums. My other cousin plays
Wow,
guitar.
wow, yeah.
Like it's very much in our
So when you
blood.
when you're part of these bands, are some of them your family members or like your?
Sometimes, yeah. My brother's actually been playing drums for this project recently, so
Gotcha,
we've been
okay.
playing together, which has been awesome. It's
Okay.
been so awesome for us to play together.
No family drama coming in.
No.
It's like
No.
all.
Especially not for my brother. He's like the nicest person in the
There
world.
you go. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you guys are all business.
Yeah.
Not business, but all
Yeah.
music and passion.
All music and passion and fun. It's
Yeah.
just like music is now. Granted, there's always those difficult times. Because as you're working stuff out and all that, like things were going to get challenging. It's life. Life is challenging no matter what you're doing. You know. But for the most part, yeah, it just comes from a place of just enjoyment.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's how we roll.
You prefer albums or you prefer live music, like studio style, or you prefer like live jamming it? Because you're a rocky, I feel like I know the answer, but
Yeah, that's almost like apples to oranges, because it's like
they both have their
such
roles.
there's such different experiences. It's like I love both. I'm just gonna say I love both equally. I know that's kind of a cop out.
It's cool. No,
So,
it's fair. It's fair.
I'll say this: I love I do really love the studio environment because I love that to take something basically from like an atom, and then to make it sprout into this piece, this composition.
Yeah.
Like I've again that's kind of why I got so into songwriting and stuff is because I love composition. So when I first got into music, I was playing in like concert bands, so like in band in high school and stuff like that. Even before then, middle school and elementary school to a degree. But I've always loved composition, like Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, like all that type of stuff. That's like the stuff that I started with, right? So I've always been just a fan of just like putting music together, right? So it was, as I played more and as I like wrote more songs and as I listened to more music and stuff like that, I realized it's the same principles, when you're doing like rock, hip hop, R&B, all that. There's still compositions, you're still composing the arrangements,
Okay.
So I love that aspect. I love taking it from like literally zero to like, look at this composition that I created. Like, you know what I mean? Look at these 36 instruments that I put together to play specific parts to move together in harmony, right? Like, that's amazing to me, like even if it's just, a 4-piece or a 3-piece, it's
still
incredible. I think that's an incredible thing. But the live performance, I mean, just to be able to feed off of a crowd, I mean, dude, I don't care if it's 3 people there, like if it's even just 3 people and you guys are feeling it and everyone's having a good time, man, like there's just something so just special about that, we're very much social beings. I mean, like, and again, they go so hand in hand because you create the music, at least I do, so that it can be shared, so that people can hear
and then
it,
when you share it live,
so there's the excitement of like creating that piece and then being like, oh, I can't wait for like for people to hear it, like, and all that type of stuff, and you thrust it into like to the world so it can
and
be
to
heard.
actually watch them like react live.
Totally, yeah. It was like, man, like this is what I like dreamed about when I was putting it together, So yeah. So
I had a cough come through.
I was about to say bless you. I don't know if that was a cough or a sneeze, but
It was a cough.
bless you anyway.
Thank you. What are you looking forward to next? So Arrival is out.
Arrival's actually still in pre-sale technically. Okay. So it officially releases August 8th. So everybody make sure that you pick it up. August 8th.
Where will they where should we find?
You'll be able to find it everywhere. So digitally, we're still trying to figure out exactly how like we're going to distribute CDs and stuff like that, but it will be on every like digital platform. So like Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, all that. You'll be able to get it anywhere. Tidal, all the above.
Okay.
So and then we have physical CDs that you can actually buy now. So if anybody wants to purchase the album now, you can do that. You can also purchase it on Bandcamp. All right. So please do make sure.
What is Bandcamp?
What is Bandcamp? So Bandcamp it's a music outlet. It's kind of similar to like trying to think of the best. I mean, it's really kind of like Spotify, but it's just a little bit more detailed, I guess.
Okay. Okay.
Spotify has a lot of detail in it as well too, but
So
it's
it's
just
like SoundCloud, Spotify, Bandcamp.
the what separates Bandcamp is that it's really, if you really want to like truly support the artist, like financially and all that other type of stuff, that's kind of what Bandcamp is designed for. Like, so all the funds and everything like that that you when you purchase an album goes directly to the artist. You can submit more if you want to just support the artist, right? So if your album is like $8 and somebody wants to give you $20 just to like extra support you, you can do that. It's like it's like minimum of like whatever the CD costs, and then however much you want to get from that point. So so it's a very very cool application. It's a very cool outlet and stuff that people can utilize. And so we're releasing on there. We're pushing on there because again, it's just love what they're trying to do, and that they're trying to like support artists and have them be supported by the fans and stuff like that. So so.
Do you like that artists of our generation has social media outlet to kind of do the work on our, do their work on their own?
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, I think it's super cool. I mean, I'm on I'm on it pretty often. So like I'm on obviously like partly as a musician, but just for for interest as well too. I mean, there's so many. So it's
a really unique feature that kind of our generation artists gets to feel. This like, let me promote myself.
Yeah.
In addition to like the record label, or in addition to being, promoted by the band or whatever, it's also like, well, here I am live for myself. Like it's a very unique feel that the current generation of artists can get to feel.
100%. So from my vantage point, I'll tell a little story, a little anecdote with this one. So the whole so as a drummer, right? For like social media, like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that type of stuff, it has been super fascinating just to see all these drummers like make their own thing, like make their own business out of themselves through social media. So I'm a huge drum geek, so like I'm a huge drum nerd. So I'm like, I'm the most of like in my family and my friends always make fun of me because they're like, you're always like looking at drum videos. I'm like, I love drums, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Better than anything else.
Oh, totally. It's just awesome. It's just like you're just banging away. Like it's just like, I mean, for me, obviously, there's few better releases than just being able to get on a kit and just bang out. You know what I mean? Just like make a bunch of noise and just get all that, everything that you have in you out, like the aggression, the passion, the love, like all that type of stuff. So, so it's been really fascinating to me just to see like all these drummers just make a business for themselves out of social media, doing instruction, right? Showing off their chops and showing off their playing, showing themselves playing with their, respective bands and stuff, like all this other type of stuff, and how they've just made a business out of just themselves, because for the longest time, like so long ago, that was not a thing,
it
wasn't.
It was not a thing. You had to be up a level to even be considered. But now it's kind of like, let the people decide, and the people are deciding.
Exactly. But, it kind of, in a way, it did kind of start a long time ago. So for me, the reason why I started even playing music was because of the drummer of the Dave Matthews Band, Carter Beauford.
Okay.
So I was like 12 years old, 13 years old or so. And I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do with my life, right? So
at 12, it's okay.
Yeah, of course, right? So, but I just started high school, and my brother was a drummer, and I'd seen him play all the time and stuff like that. And never really I always thought it was cool, and I had even tried it for a little bit, but it never truly connected with me. Like, oh yeah, I want to be a drummer. That type of thing, right? He brought home an instructional video for the drummer from the Dave Matthews Band, Carter Beauford. It was 2 VHS tapes. So back in that day, right? So 2 VHS tapes.
That's how we saw content, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? So there you go. So Volume 1 and Volume 2 or whatever, right? Under the Table and Drumming is what it was called. And I watched that one day just on a whim, just popped it in just to check it out, see what it was all about. And I watched it from start to finish. I was mesmerized. I was just absolutely dumbfounded. I'd never seen anybody play like that up close. You know what I mean? Like I'd never heard anything like that. I never heard anyone be that musical with the drums.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
never heard drums sound that good, you know, like well mic'd, you know, super well produced, all that type of stuff, you know, like, and I'd even heard the Dave Matthews Band before then, but I didn't like realize like, whoa, this dude's like a killer drummer, right? So the rest was just that moment alone, I knew what I wanted to do. I was like, I heard it and I was just like, I know what I am now. I want to be a drummer. I'm going to be a drummer. I'm going to do
Travis
everything.
Barker, I think that's the one. That's the one drummer. That's the one name.
Yeah. That one extraordinary, incredible, like phenomenal name. Yeah.
He said
because he was pretty much like probably like the second like really big influence for me. Yeah.
He said that his guidance counselor said that to him.
Really?
Like, well, you gotta pick like a more realistic career. You know, you can't think that you could be a drummer. And he's like,
Yeah.
And he had a nice story too. He picked up trash and stuff, but he would play in the evenings. And that's how like.
You get a lot of that in music. I mean, like there's a lot of like I don't necessarily say naysayers because I mean to some degree they're right. You know, like it's not like it is a little bit more volatile business, you know, than some others, you know, but if you're really good,
why not?
if you work your butt off and if you find the right, you know, either project or right moment, you can do really, 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 really well. You know, so you know, more power to all those folks that have like worked their butts off and put themselves in the right situation. You know, like Travis Barker and all these other artists, because you know they work consistently and it paid off for them. You know?
How do you get yourself to work your butt off? Do you who's like which influencer? Who's like, you know, is there like somebody that you're like that one man you listen to? There's somebody that you listen to. But not just musicians, but like, you know, motivational speaker or that gets you say, all right, I gotta go take care of this day. Anybody?
Not that I necessarily listen to. It's more that I just kind of see their work and admire it, and then kind of try to replicate it. So I've always, you know, again, my specific vantage point is usually from like entertainment. So like, you know, like a lot of like actors and stuff like that. So like Denzel Washington, for instance, like he's like been working from, you know, all these people have been working on their craft literally as long as they've been either young adults or adults, right? So, you know, Denzel Washington, you know, Brad Pitt, these are like just like kind of some of my favorites, you know, but like I'm trying to think of who else, you know, like James Cameron as a director and stuff like that. Like I love his like so and that's the type of thing where I mean like you could tell like just in every production that he has, there's no stone left unturned, you know. So like, and he's very much like kind of a perfectionist. Like I am as well too, not to the point where it like drives me completely crazy against. But that's the kind of like work ethic that I like to have, like specifically in like my craft. You know, like so when I'm working with and you know anybody that works with me like can usually like see that as well too. Like I work.
Do they complain like squares? Come on.
Sometimes.
Is that right?
Yeah. Sometimes, not in a bad way, but they're just like, dude, like the song, it's like it's complete. You know, like just give it a break. I'm like, I could just use that one little thing. You know, that can just like give it a little, you know, give it that extra taste. You know, that I think would like maybe not necessarily everybody would notice, but I'll definitely notice it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So,
you're like, why not?
So that's the kind of thing that I like, you know, that I try to replicate, I guess, at least with my stuff, my music, with my life. You know, I just want to be an upstanding professional, like in everything that I do.
That's
you
what's
know,
up.
so and that includes music.
That's
for
what's
sure.
up.
So yeah.
So, do you think a hiatus is coming up next, or do you think another album is coming up next?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Is that right? Is that right?
For sure.
And what would the theme be? Now you've arrived, and now you climbed the mountain. You've seen the mountain. You SOS.
Mm-hmm.
You've done the mountain. You felt like you've arrived. And
now
you feel like you know the album was coming up. What do you think?
Now I want to make a mountain. so like now, you know, now I want to just like literally like create like a straight up just landscape. You know what I mean? Like I want to like create something that, you know, that really is like, so one thing that I guess has kind of like always been a chase for me is like kind of like the sounds or the, you know, the model of the future, right? Like I've always been like kind of like a future buff, you know, to some degree.
Okay.
So, you know, I want to create something that's like, not, I mean, you know, there's only been so much like originality these days anymore, you know, because so many things have just been done and done and done and done. But there is like an element of where it's like, oh well, that's unique. You know what I mean? Like that's like that's a unique thing. It's like I don't necessarily hear that every day, at least done like that.
Okay.
So that's interesting, you know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like I guess maybe what I'm chasing, if
Okay.
anything, for the next record. Again, I haven't really thought that super far into
No,
it.
because you're just coming out with one. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but that if anything, if I were to just
Now
again
that
think
you're
out
up
loud
here,
about it,
yeah, yeah.
since you're asking me the question, that's what I'd say would be the next thing. It's just like okay, like you said, like SOS, you know, like mountains. I've hit like kind of the arrival points where I feel like a true like professional, where I feel like the quality is like up to my standard for the most part. Now it's time to really dig in and just see where that kind of takes me.
Like that.
idea.
Like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else for our viewers? For for anybody listening? Well, we talked about where they could find your music, but what anything else that you would want to add to what what could make you an artist? What could make your music special that you want to hear? You want the viewers to hear about you?
Yeah. Yeah, just to make sure you take care of yourself, obviously. So take care of your minds, you know, like go on a walk, go on a hike, you know, go on like, you know, go on a trip, do something like that. You know, make sure to keep your mind fresh and your mind like at ease, you know, as much as you can. Because life is hard, man. You know, like life is difficult all the time. So
you can SOS.
Yeah.
then you do come across a mountain.
Yeah.
And then you realize that you're alright.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So yeah, just go through
He's
that.
living it. Yeah.
Go through that journey and just just keep pushing through it. You know, and use your support system. You know, like your friends, your family. You know, your outlets. You know, whether it's music, art, whatever, all that type of stuff. Don't let that stuff, you know, fall away because like honestly, it's just we need an outlet, you know, for our health.
For our inner turmoil, because for the inner stuff that we got going on. It's
absolutely real. Especially these days. I mean it's just it's difficult. So, you know, just make sure you're doing that and then listen to music. You know, like again, I'm a musician, so my paradigm and my thought point is to just highly encourage people to get into music because I mean for one it's everywhere and you can't avoid it anyways, but like just you know if you like it, if you love it, then just get more of it because
it's clean music, it's good healthy music.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. So
and his name is Squares and his latest album is called Arrival.
Go check it out.
And congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Yeah, make sure you check it out on Bandcamp. And then once again, album will be released August 8th. Atmosphere has been released on Spotify, all streaming platforms already, and Layers comes out tomorrow. So make sure that you guys check that out as well too.
June 27th. Okay.
That's right. So look forward to just continuing to share with you guys. Follow me on Instagram. It's SQUA1RZ. One more time, SQUA1RZ. So make sure you hit me up there. Hit me with the follow.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.